sa
Pangabuso, paghihirap, at korupsyon.
ang mga masasayang alaala.
Pagtuklas sa katotohanan.
At ang dahilan ng paglaban,
Uulitin ko. Naaalala mo pa ba?
Hello everyone, I am Justine Falsario.
My name is Shalami Parpado.
My name is Iverson Eopiasa.
My name is Abel Ernest T. Generali.
I'm John Michael Palmet.
I am Jennifer Pedrajas.
And we are the Group 5. And we are tasked to tackle about the filibusterismo. El filibusterismo is a second novel written by Dr. Jose Rizal, and it is also considered as a sequel to Noli Me Tangere. And just like Noli Me Tangere, El filibusterismo was written in Spanish, and the novel consists of 38 chapters. The El filibusterismo as a sequel has a little humor, less idealism, less romance, and it is more revolutionary and more tragic. The title El filibusterismo is the reign of greed in English, or ang paghahari ng kasakiman sa Tagalog. So let us compare the Noli Me Tangere and El filibusterismo. According to Gregorio Saide, the two novels of Dr. Jose Rizal vary in many respects, though dealing with the same story and the same character. The Noli Me Tangere is a romantic novel, a book of the heart, a book of feeling. It has freshness and color, humors, lightness, and wit. While the El filibusterismo is a political novel, a work of the head, a work of thought. It contains bitterness, and it has hatred, pain, violence, and sorrow. So basically, the El filibusterismo is more darker than the Noli Me Tangere because it contains hatred, violence, bitterness, and pain. Purino noted that Rizal is more bitter dahil hindi na siya natutuwa sa sitwasyon ng mga Pilipino under the decadent of colonial system. Pinakita rin ni Rizal ang kanyang matinding galit against the Spanish colonial officials at mga pare dahil sa kaawa-awa at miserableng kalagayan ng mga Pilipino. The intention of Rizal is to make the El filibusterismo longer than the Noli Me Tangere, but due to lack of funds, Rizal himself had to cut the El filibusterismo drastically na naging rason kung bakit naging maikli ito. And it has the 38 chapters against Noli 64. The friend of Rizal differ in opinions as to which is superior, the Noli Me Tangere or the El filibusterismo. But Jose Rizal himself considered Noli Me Tangere as superior, the same with the opinion of Marcelo H. del Pilar and Wenceslao Retano. However, Blumentritt, Graciano Lopez Haina, and Dr. Rafael Palma considered El filibusterismo as superior. The writing of El filibusterismo. Rizal started writing the second novel as early as October 1887 when he was in Calamba. He continued writing when he was in London, and more chapters were written when he was in Paris and more when he was in Madrid. It was Biarritz when the manuscript was completed on March 29, 1891. It took him 3 years to write the novel. It came off the press on September 18, 1891 with publisher F. Meyer van Loo Press in Ghent, East Flanders, Belgium.
Rizal went to Ghent to find cheaper printing press and resident for 3 months with the limited funds. Rizal lived in a cheap boarding house with Jose Alejandro from Pampanga as boardmate. They lived a frugal life. So, pero bago pumunta si Rizal ng Ghent, he was in Beatrice, France. So, pumunta si Rizal ng Ghent upang maghanap ng matutuluyan o matitirahan sa loob ng 3 buwan na may limitadong pondo lamang. Si Rizal ay nanirahan sa isang murang boarding house na kasama si Jose Alejandro na nagmula sa Pampanga. Sila ay namuhay ng matipid at noong taong 1899 to 1902, si Jose Alejandro ay naging isang general during the Filipino and American War. So, Jose recounted in Ghent We live in a room paying so much for our lodging and breakfast. Rizal asked me, how much could the room cost without the breakfast? Rizal made his calculation and concluded that if we made our breakfast, we can save something. So, dito naman, ikwinento ni Jose Alejandro na sa Ghent sila tumira na nagbabayad ng labis para sa kanilang tinutuluyan at kinakain sa tuwing umaga. Tinanong niya si Rizal, magkano ang halaga ng silid kung walang almusal? Ginawa ni Rizal ang kanyang pagkalkula at napagpasyahan na sila na lamang ang gumawa ng kanilang almusal at sila ay may maiipon. No fund for LPL printing. So, the number 1 is Rizal was broke. So, dito, Rizal was a doctor but he earned no income from it. He didn't practice his profession while he was in Europe. Instead, he traveled to establish linkage and work for propaganda movement. So dito, si Rizal ay isang doktor ngunit wala siyang kinikita mula rito. Hindi niya isinasabuhay ang kanyang profession habang siya ay nasa Europa. Sa halip, naglakbay siya upang magtatag ng mga ugnayan at nagtrabaho para sa kilusang propaganda. Then the next one is no financial support from his family. So dito, his brother Pakasyo could no longer send his allowance. His family livelihood was crippled like most Kalambat tenants were persecuted. So dito, wala siyang natatanggap na allowance na nagmula sa kanyang pamilya. Then, the next one is no more allowance from propaganda movement. He declared his retirement from the propaganda movement since he abdicated his leadership in Madrid in January 1891. Dito naman, idiniklara niya ang kanyang pagriritero mula sa kilusang propaganda. Mula nang itinakwil niya ang kanyang pamumuno sa Madrid noong Enero 1891 sa pagmamay-ari ng mga intriga ng kanyang mga nahihibugho na mga kababayan. Dati siyang tumatanggap ng allowance na 50 piso bawat buwan. Number 4, no more income from La Solidaridad. So dito naman, Rizal stopped writing for La Solidaridad with his retirement in propaganda. Huminto si Rizal ng pagsusulat sa pagsusulat ng La Solidaridad kasabay ng pagriritero sa kilusang propaganda. Then, the last one is copies of Noli Me Tangere were confiscated. There was a deficit in his publication. Dito naman nakumpiskahan na ang mga kopya ng Noli Me Tangere ay nagkaroon ng kakulangan sa paglalathala nito.
El filibusterismo printing. On the day Rizal arrived in Ghent, he looked for printing press that could give him cheapest cost, and he found the F. Meyer Ban Law Press. He made the deal on installment basis, and he found this jewel to pay the down payment. Eventually, the printing was suspended on August 6, 1891. He could no longer provide necessary fund for printing. Ito daw ay, noong dumating si Rizal sa Ghent ay naghanap siya ng printing press at nahanap niya ang F. Meyer Ban Law Press at siya ay nakipag-syuso at siya ay nagsanla ng kanyang jewel para makapagbayad dito. Ngunit ito ay nasuspindi dahil naubusan ng pangbayad si Rizal noong August 6, 1891. Alas, El Fili is saved. In the midst of the trouble, help came unexpectedly. A friend in Paris sent him a necessary fund to finance the El Fili hens. The printing was resumed. He was Valentin Ventura, the El Fili savior. with a complete and felicitation for the printing of El Fili. Rizal handed the manuscript to Ventura. It was preserved at Filipiniana Division of the Bureau of Public Libraries, Manila. The government acquired it from Valentin for 1,000 pesos. Dito daw ay mayroon isang taga-Paris na tumulong kay Rizal upang maiprinta ang El Fili. Siya ay si Valentin Ventura. At dinala niya ito sa Filipiniana Division of Bureau of Public Libraries, Manila. At siya ay nakatanggap ng 1,000 piso. El Fili for filibusterismo. At his young age, Rizal became aware of the first Filipinos who worked for liberty, justice, and equality. Learning from Pasiano, the Pres Gomez, Burgos, and Zamora were executed as they fought for the right to be recognized as Filipino priests. Rizal dedicated the second novel, El Fili, to them. Rizal dedicated El Filibusterismo to the three martyred priests of Cavite Mutiny. The execution of the three martyred priests was significant to the title of the novel. At dito ay kahit nung bata pa si Rizal ay aware na sa tatlong paring pinatay na sila Padre Gomez, Burgos at Zamora na namatay dahil pinaglaban ng kanilang sarili bilang pari. At sa kanila rin dedicate ni Rizal ang second novel ng El Fili.
Rizal had to define the word filibustero to his German friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, who did not understand his use of the word in No Limitangere. In a letter, Rizal explained, the word filibustero is little known in the Philippines. The masses do not know it yet. I heard it for the first time in 1872 when the tragic execution took place. Sabi ni Rizal sa kaibigan niya si Ferdinand Blumentritt, Rizal in-explain niya ito kay Blumentritt na narinig to ni Rizal noong 1872 na noong tragic execution took place noong panahon ng revolution na yung nagrevolusyon yung mga tao noong 1872 dahil sa pagpatay doon sa tatlong pare. I still remember the panic that this word created. Our father forbade us to utter it, as well as the word Cavite, Burgos, etc. The Manila newspaper and the Spaniard applied this word to one whom they want to make a revolutionary suspect. In that days, the Cavite Mutiny has begun nung pinatay yung tatlong priest ng Katolik na sina Gomborza, si Gomez, Burgos at si Zamora. The Filipinos belonging to the educated class fear the reach of the word. It does not have the meaning of freebooster. It rather means a dangerous patriot who will soon be hung, or well, a presumption man. Noong panahon pa kasi noon wala nang kalayaan dahil sa Spaniard colony noon ay dahil kung magsuway ka sa mga batas nila pwede kang putulan ng ulo or di kaya bitayin ka gamit ang mga lubid. Upon completing El Filibusterismo, Rizal wrote to Blumentritt, I have not written in it any idea of vengeance against my enemies, but only for the good of those who suffer, for the right of Tagalog. Hindi niya daw ito sinulat para lang sa makapagiganti siya sa kanyang mga kaaway, but sinulat niya ito para malaman ng katotohanan ng mga Pilipino kung ano ang mga pinagdaanan ng mga Pilipino noon sa pagdurusa sa kamay ng Espanyol.
Synopsis of El Filibusterismo. The books narrate the return of the protagonist of No Limitangere. Crisostomo Ibarra, under the disguise of a wealthy jeweler named Simon, disillusioned by the abuses of this Spain, Ibarra abandons his pacifist beliefs in order to return to the Philippines and start a violent revolution. So it is said that Ibarra abandoned his pacifist beliefs in order to return to the Philippines to start a violent revolution. So what is the revolution? Or so we call that violent revolution. So revolution in the sense of revolutionary movement is a concerted effort to change government, region, society, or all three by violence. Noli me tangere Basilio, now a young man and a skilled medical student, is recruited by Ibarra to aid him in detonating a bomb at a social gathering signaling the beginning of the violent revolution. However, Basilio wants his friend Isagani, realizing that the woman he loves is in the building. Isagani throws that bomb into the river, averting the explosion and revolution. Implicated in this matter, Simon commits suicide by taking poison and finds resting place at the home of priest. Father Florentino, who hear his last confession and assure him that not all hope is lost. The priest, named Father Florentino, upon Simon's death, commends the jewels into the sea, remarking that the jewels once used to bribe and corrupt people would one day be hopefully found to be used for a meaningful purpose. Zamora or the Gamborza were executed as they fought for their right to be recognized as Filipino priests. In their work for securitization of churches in the Philippines, their names were sting for the Cavite Mutiny. To them, he dedicated the second novel. So as I said, that the Gumborza was executed for fighting their right. So Gumborza is the acronym for the three Filipino martyred Catholic priests, who are Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora, who led the secularization of Filipino priests and who were executed on February 17, 1873 by the Spanish colonial authorities at the Luneta in Bagumbayan. In his dedication, he wrote, "To the memory of the priest, Don Mariano Gomez, Don Jose Burgos, and Don Jacinto Zamora, executed in Bagumbayan field during February 17, 1872. I have the right to dedicate my work to you as a victims of the evils which I undertake to combat. And while we wait expectantly upon Spain someday to restore your good name and case to be answerable for your death, let this page serve as a tardy wreath of dead leaves cover your unknown tombs, and let it be understood that everyone who without proofs attacks your memory stains his hands in your blood." The hero of El Filibusterismo is a rich jeweler named Simon. He was Crisostomo Ibarra of the Noli me tangere, who with Ellis' help escaped from the pursuing soldiers at Laguna de Bay, dug up his buried treasure, and fled to Cuba, where he became rich and be befriended by many Spanish officials. After many years, he returned to the Philippines, where he freely moved around. He is a powerful figure not only because he is a rich jeweler, but also because he is a good friend and advisor of the Governor General. Outwardly, Simon is a friend of Spain. However, deep in his heart, he is secretly cherishing a terrible revenge against the Spanish authorities. His two obsessions are rescuing Maria Clara from the nunnery of Santa Clara and to foment a revolution against their hated Spanish masters. The story of El Filibusterismo begins on board the Clumsy, roundish-shaped steamer Tabo, so appropriately named. The steamer is sailing upstream the Pasig from Manila to the Laguna de Bay. Among the passengers are Simon, the rich jeweler, Doña Victorina, the ridiculously pro-Spanish native woman who is going to Laguna in search of her henpecked husband. Tiborcio de Espadanya, who was deserted her Paulita Gomez, her beautiful niece, Benzag, a nagab of Ibanez, a Spanish journalist who writes silly articles about the Filipinos, Padre Siblia, Vice Rector of the University of Santo Tomas, Padre Camora, the parish priest of the town of Tiana. Don Custodia, a pro-Spanish Filipino holding a position in the government. Padre Salve, thin Franciscan friar and former cura of San Diego. Diego, Padre Irene, a kind friar who was a friend of the Filipino students. Padre Florentino, a retired scholarly and patronic Filipino priest. Isagani, a poet, nephew of Padre Florentino and lover of Paulita, and Basilio, son of Sisa, and Mysing, medical student, whose medical education is financed by his patron, Capitan Chano. Simon, a man of wealth and mystery, is a very close friend and confidante of the Spanish Governor General because of his great influence of Malacanang. He was called the Brown Cardinal of the Black Immense. By using his wealth and political influence, he encourages corruption and the government, promotes the oppression of the masses, and hastens the moral degradation of the country so that the people may become desperate and fight. He struggles arms into the country with the help of a rich Chinese merchant, or Yoga, who wants very much to be Chinese consul of Manila. His first attempt to begin the armed uprising did that materials because at the last hour he hears the sad news that Maria Clara died in the nunnery, and his agonizing moment of bereavement, he did not give the signal for the outbreak of hostilities. After a long time of illness brought about by the bitter loss of Maria Clara, Simon perfects his plan to overthrow the government. On the occasion of the wedding of Paulita Gomez and Juanito Pilaes, he gives a wedding gift to them, a beautiful lamb. Only he and his confidential associates, Basilio, Sis's son, who join his revolutionary cause, know that when the wick of his lamp burns lower, the nitroglycerin hidden in its secret compartment will explode, destroying the house where the wedding feast is going to be held, killing all the guests, including the Governor General, the friars, and the government officials. Simultaneously, all the government buildings in Manila will be blown by Simon's fireworks. As the wedding feast begins, the poet Isagani, who has been rejected by Paulita because of his liberal ideas, is standing outside the house, watching sorrowfully the moment inside. Basilio, his friend, warns him to go away because the lighted lamp will soon explode. Upon hearing the horrible secret of the lamp, Isagani realizes that his beloved Paulita was in a grave danger. To save her life, he rushes into the house, seizes the lighted lamp, and hurls into the river where it explodes. Upon hearing the horrible secret of the lamp, Isagani realizes that his beloved Paulita was in the grave. The revolutionary plot was thus discovered. Simon was covered by the soldiers, but he escaped. Mortally wounded and carrying his treasure chest, he sought refuge in the home of Padre Florentino by the sea. The Spanish authorities, however, learns of his presence in the house of Padre Florentino. Lieutenant Perez of the Guardia Civil informs the priest by letter that he would come at 8 o'clock that night so to arrest Simon. Simon included arrest by taking poison. As he is dying, he confesses to Padre Florentino, revealing his true identity, his dastardly plan to use his wealth to avenge himself, and his sinister aim to destroy his friends and enemies. The confession of the dying Simon is long and painful. It was already night when Padre Florentino, wiping the sweat from his wrinkled brow, rises and begins to imitate. He consoles the dying man, saying, God will forgive you, Senor Simon. He knows that we are fallible. He has sent that you have suffered, and in ordaining that the chastisement for the faults should come as death from the very ones you have integrated to crime. We can see his infinite mercy. He has frustrated your plans one by one. The best gods conceived, first by the death of Maria Clara, they by a lack of preparation, then in some mysterious way, let us bow to his will and render him thanks. Watching Simon die peacefully with a clear conscience and at peace with God, Padre Florentino moments. Where are you, youth, who will consecrate their golden arts, their illusions and their enthusiasm to the welfare of their native land? Where are the youth who will give generously pour out their blood to wash away so much shame, so much crime, so much abomination? Pure and spotless must the victim, by that the sacrifice may be acceptable. Where are you, youth, who will embody and yourselves the vigor of life that has left our veins? The purity of the ideas that has been configurated on our brain, the fire of enthusiasm has that been quenched in our hearts. We await you, O youth, come, for we await you.
First is Crisostomo Ibarra. His full name is Juan Crisostomo Ibarra y Magsalin, was a young student from San Diego. Following his father's death, he returned to his hometown and sought to establish a proper school there, only to face numerous obstacles from the local figures. Implicated in a revolt, he later fled the town and forged a new identity as the jeweler Simon. Crisostomo Ibarra is a Spanish mestizo, young man who studied in Europe for 7 years, fiancé of Maria Clara, believed in the importance of education to the youth, has liberal mind, outspoken, and idealist. Second is Basilio. Basilio is the son of Sisa and Pedro, and the older brother of Crispin. He is the only remaining member of his family due to the turn of events 13 years ago. In Noli Me Tangere, his brother was tortured until death by the head sacristan. His mother gone crazy and his father died after joining the rebellion. In the start of Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo, he is a student of medicine. He was able to have his education with the help of Captain Tiago, He was spared to death by an unknown man who helped him 13 years ago with the burial of his mother. Later on, he learned that the man is Crisostomo Ibarra. Now in disguise as the wealthy jeweler Simoon, he is the main love interest of Huli. Basilio joined Simoon's rebellion after realizing that Simoon is right and revenge is his priority to let Spain pay him all he have lost fairly. Next is Isagani. Isagani grew up an orphan. His parents are not mentioned as he was adopted as a child by his uncle Padre Florentino. Their precise family relationship remains unclear. There are rumors that Isagani is the son of Padre Florentino's first love, or a son of Padre Florentino's cousin. Isagani lives in Padre Florentino's house, which is in a remote location in the province surrounded by mountains, rivers, forests, and the sea. He spent most of his childhood exploring the vast lands and would often watch clouds while sitting on a cliff overlooking the sea. He did it so often that Padre Florentino threatened to bring him to a physician. Afraid that Isagani would become a hypochondriac, Isagani moved to Manila to study medicine at the Ateneo de Municipal. Next is Telesforo. His nickname is Tails. He was the son of the woodcutter Tandang Selo. They live in the forest of San Diego, and eventually Tails had a wife and 3 children, which is Lucia, Tano, and Julie. Originally, Tails worked as a tenant of someone else's farm, but he decided that he wanted his own. Because of this, the family cut down trees to clear lands that they could farm. One day, they got sick, and Tails' wife and eldest daughter Lucia died from illness. The family believed that the forest spirits cursed them and were getting revenge. Next is Makaraig. Not much is known about Makaraig's family or past other than the fact that he comes from a wealthy family that has multiple large houses in the Philippines. At some point, Makaraig joined the Students' Association and decided to help start a petition to establish an academy for Spanish. Makaraig is currently studying law, taking it up for the sake of having a degree. He is in his final year of university. Next is Padre Florentino. Padre Florentino is the only Indio priest mentioned in El Filibusterismo. Since most Indios end up as priest's assistants, he used to be considered charming and happy, and was part of a rich family, and his mother forced him to enter the seminary because of her friendship with the archbishop. While in school, he became classmates with Senior Pasta. Padre Florentino became a priest at 25 years old, and when his mother died, she left him his fortune. The next one is Julie. Julie was born and raised in San Diego along with 2 older siblings, Lucia and Tano, by her father Telesforo or Tails and his wife unnamed. After Julie's father became a farmer and maintained his own lands, Julie's older sister and mother eventually died from illness. As Julie grew up, Tails became more successful and eventually the family moved to Sagpang Barrio. Tails promised Julie that she would go to school, but before too busy to do so, Julie got sick but managed to recover. While living in Sagpang Barrio, Julie met Basilio and the two started dating. The next one is Juanito Pelaez. Juanito Pelaez is said to have been born an Indio with mestizo blood. The identity and whereabouts of his mother are unknown as she is not mentioned. It is suggested that his Spanish blood was passed down from his father, Don Timoteo Pelaez. Don Timoteo Pelaez is widely known in Manila, showing that Juanito Pelaez's family has probably lived there for some time as that is where their business is based. Don Timoteo Pelaez runs a very successful store that provides, among many products, construction supplies. The last one is Doña Victorina. Doña Victorina is a rich Filipina whose source of wealth is unknown. She married Don Tiburcio de Espadana 15 years before the events of El Filibusterismo. Right after getting married, she wanted to Europeanize herself and managed to do so with makeup, to the point that many people didn't know what her race was. Her marriage was not a happy one, and eventually Don Tiburcio hit her with a crutch and escaped the house, fleeing to Laguna. Doña Victorina has been looking for him ever since. She resides in Manila and is often seen accompanying her niece, Paulita Gomez.
At dito nagtatapos ang aming presentation about the El Filibusterismo at sana ay marami kayong natutunan.